Hey, how's it going? I'm Dr. Tygue, and I am the owner of Synergy Chiropractic, along with my wife, Ailey. And I guess you could say that Benny's kind of like our, mascot. Haven't assigned him any ownership yet, but, we'll see how it goes. Today, I just kind of want to be real with you and let you know a little bit more about me so you can get to know me. We'll talk about some of the things that I love, some of the things that drive me crazy, and really why I do what I do and why I've chosen to go against the grain, to focus on a pediatric population and kind of step back from the traditional medical model or the traditional chiropractic model where, we're talking about why does my back hurt, my neck hurt, I got in a car accident, let's slap you through some therapies with some e-stim pads and an ice pack and then shoot you with a bunch of lasers. If you've seen anything about our practice or you've been in our practice, you know that those are very far from what we do. I still like to play around with some rehab work from an exercise base when I'm working with moms and dads that are either postpartum and want to get back into exercise or sit at a desk all day and they're hunched over and their neck hurts. Well, yeah, adjusting is going to be a huge help with that. And the application of the adjustment is going to be fantastic. But, throwing things like e-stim and a roller table at it, they're never, ever, ever going to make a difference. You're going to feel better while you're going through that process, but that is not addressing the cause of what's going on. If you can kind of flip it around and adjust that area and restore that neurological function to the area and additionally make it stronger, that's a pretty darn good way to do it. Let's start with some things that just drive me absolutely nuts, and that'll kind of help drive you into understanding why I do what I do and why I am like I am, and yeah, that's me. Things that drive me nuts, and this is because I've had personal experience in a lot of these areas. Doctors who don't listen to a patient's concerns or take the time to educate or empower them. When I was in my early 20s, I had a disc herniation that I had as an injury from water skiing. And when I was in college, I was on the water ski team. Everybody said, hey, did you play basketball? I did, but not as good as I could ski. Skiing was more fun. But I went through PT and I had a couple rounds of steroid injections. And in my early 20s, I was not set on this path yet in doing this. So I didn't know to ask different questions. I was a scared early 20s guy who just wanted to be able to exercise and have fun again and not be in terrible pain that made it so he couldn't walk or horrible pain every time I went to the bathroom. So, when you're 21, 22, and you're sitting in a spine specialist, neurosurgeon, ortho, I can't even remember what the guy was. He's dead to me now, whatever. And he basically told me, you're not going to run anymore. Say goodbye to skiing. You're not going to exercise like you used to. You're probably going to have to get a disc replacement surgery or a fusion down the line. It's not looking good, kid. That's BS, essentially. It is. It's just terrible. So, rant over. That's kind of what got me down the path of, well, all right, I've tried injections. I've tried going to the doctor. I've tried PT. I've shot in the dark. I'm going to get adjusted. And getting adjusted was the first thing that allowed me to actually stand up straight after like a month. It was pretty miserable. It sucked. I tried different types of medications, and I know for myself that pain medication it just didn't do it for me. I was prescribed gabapentin at one time, which is a pretty commonly used thing when you're talking about this type of nerve pain. And a lot of people have had experience with gabapentin. But for me, I had one of the bad side effects where you get night terrors. And I would wake up and I couldn't distinguish if there was, what was real. So I kind of like horror movies. And I remember watching one kind of B-roll crappy horror movie that was kind of funny, kind of creepy, whatever. Had a nightmare about it. Woke up with night terror, just out of sorts because I thought that my whole entire family had been eaten by demon things. But I couldn't separate it. And looking through, I was just like, where does this come from? I've never had this experience before. Well, side effect is some of the medications I was prescribed. So I really take that stuff seriously. It's a big deal. Other things that drive me nuts. I'm a new dad now. Benny just turned 5 months old this past weekend. Time is flying. But we moved to South Florida about a year ago. And before that, I was in the Caribbean for 5 years. I practiced on the island of St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It was great. It was a good experience. Hurricanes really suck. And I understand that being in Florida, I'm not completely going to be away from them, but it's just kind of different. But one thing that I've really noticed, especially down here in South Florida, is there's not a lot of communication between doctors and patients. The doctor-patient relationship is more of a hierarchy. And I understand that, doctors know certain things, but we were sitting in a perinatologist's office with Haley during her pregnancy, my wife Haley, and he has a coffee cup sitting there that said, "Don't confuse your Google search with my medical degree." And I thought, this is the most pompous thing ever. I mean, I understand we don't want to get WebMD-itis, but instead of coming from an authoritarian perspective of, I know everything and you know nothing because you're the patient, why not just be a little bit more open to listening? It's just, that's just one of those things. Why can't doctors give informed choices to parents and families and take the time to educate and empower them? I don't know. Why can't they look and talk about natural health and drug-free solutions? Again, seems like it would make a bunch of sense to me. But then again, I also look at things from a different perspective through a different lens. One of the most common things that I get when I'm talking to parents or talking to the kids themselves even is, why hasn't anyone told me this before? Why hasn't anybody told me that if we can calm down this overactive fight or flight part of my sensory system and my nervous system, that I'll be less anxious and I'll be less up here and I can be calm and I'll sleep better? Well, there's not a lot of people down here that do what I do. Honestly, across the United States, there's not a lot of people that do what I do. And is it the easy way to approach things? No, I've pretty much picked the hardest way to practice, but it's the most rewarding for me because it has the biggest results and the things that are going to last the longest and make the deepest impact in the kids I see, in the families I see, in the community around me. And honestly, we're talking about being stuck in a medical system with a lot of kids that are just labeled. They're diagnosed. They're put in a box. And this is to treat symptoms, and they're thrown on different medications, and it's not really addressing the root cause because you can medicate all you want, but eventually that medication is going to lose its effectiveness, or it's going to be less effective, or we're going to have to up dosage, or we're going to have to change to a different medication. But when we add a medication, it takes a baseline and it jumps up to a different spot, which will gradually decline. But when we take the medication away, the problem is still there. And that to me is not a fix. That's a patch. When we have parents that aren't being told the whole truth about all of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, the P word, pandemic's been thrown around a lot, but the epidemic of chronic illness that's going around with kids and the health struggles that they see, to me, there's this perfect storm brewing. And it starts with stress during pregnancy. And then it's going to add in a dash of birth intervention, birth trauma. I mean, honestly, the C-section rate down here in South Florida is it's insane. It's 70-some%. And I talk to moms every day when they're talking through their history, because we're going through a deep history, and we get to the birth process, and there's on our intake, there's vaginal birth, normal, in parentheses, there's emergency C-section, which I get it. Sometimes these things happen, and it's amazing that medicine has come to the great place that it is to be able to offer this stuff. But then there's scheduled C-section, and in some cases, it's understandable. I get it. But last week I was talking to a mom, and she had a scheduled C, and I asked her, just what were the circumstances surrounding it? And she said, I didn't want to have a C-section. But my provider, I got the feeling that they didn't want to be in on the weekend, and I was due on a weekend, so they scheduled my C-section for the Friday before my due date. And just hearing this from a mom, just seeing her eyes kind of well up a little bit, because she was party to a traumatic birth, and her daughter had a rough start. It's heartbreaking. It's terrible. And then we throw on the toxins of the environment, which toxin's going to toxin. They're going to do what they're going to do. But then we start throwing in antibiotics and medication early on and often. And the truth is, kids do not grow out of these early childhood traumas and illnesses and things like colic and constipation and chronic ear infections and tantrums and meltdowns and sleeping issues and gut challenges and speech delays and motor delays. But instead they grow into other chronic illnesses like sensory problems, ADHD, anxiety, and more. We can write a book on it. There are books on it. We should read them more. But really, I mean, I see this on a daily basis. And luckily my day is not fully consumed by bad. I get a lot of joy in seeing the changes that we see with these kids and seeing them grow and get healthier and their systems work better. It's amazing. I mean, but to start off with, kids aren't only struggling with their health and being sick. They're anxious, they're stressed out, they're worn out, they're wound up, they're worn out, they're locked up all the time. But the thing is when they're in this state, they miss out on the full, vibrant, amazing life that they have in front of them and that they'd experience if they were functioning as they should, if their nervous system was able to handle all of these different things and not just put them into this scared fight or flight mode that they get stuck in. Another thing is, helping parents to come to the conclusion and understand, because again, I'm not here just telling people stuff. Every time I speak with or get to have a conversation with a parent, it's a conversation. It's that. It's back and forth. It's learning. And to be honest, I do my best to try and learn new things every day too still. But it's coming from knowing that health and healing is going to come from a healthy, functioning nervous system first and foremost. Then things like gut health and immune health and hormones and chemicals or neurotransmitters, the things that our brain and our nervous system use to communicate with the rest of our body, then those can come into play and then they can become important. But that integral network, that central nervous system, it needs to be doing the best it can, free of interference, irritation, self-fixation, whatever you want to call it, to get to this point. And I see parents daily that are absolutely exhausted. They're frustrated, not going through just the multiple medical specialists and not finding any answers or results. The thing that drives me, I've said a lot of things that drive me crazy, but another one that really gets me is the wait to get into some of these providers. And when you get into one of these providers, all they do is pawn you off on something else. Oh, you've waited 6 months for the neuroconsult? Cool. Go do OT and PT and come back in 9 months if anything's changed. And yes, those other therapies can have fantastic results and they can make a big difference. But you know what? They make a better difference if that nervous system is functioning well. One of the number one responses I get when I talk to other therapists and when I co-manage cases is that the cases that are co-managed and the kids that are getting that neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic care, they do better. Their therapy sessions are more effective. They're able to handle more. They're able to process more. They don't get exhausted as easy. They don't get tired out, cranky as easy, because their system is able to fully utilize everything that the other therapists are doing. And that's maybe the third coolest thing I get to do or hear. I love that stuff. It's really cool. And then also the next steps in line are going through tons of natural health stuff like blood testing and going through massive dietary changes and detoxes and supplements and tongue tie revisions and again, like all the therapies. And yeah, the results may change some, but eventually it either plateaus or it's not as fast as we'd like to see. I'm here to tell you, just as those therapists and the people and the friends of mine that I co-manage with tell me, the cases, they get better faster when that nervous system is doing its job. Now, what I see is parents need 3 big things. And it's my main goal to provide these 3 things for them. Because ultimately, the goals that parents have for their kids are the most important thing. Do I set goals in terms of changing objective measures and the things that I can look at and measure? Yeah, of course I do. But it's the stuff that parents want for their kids that are really important. And the things that I do my best in every single instance and every single encounter to provide are these 3 things. And that first thing is hope. Helping parents to figure out what's really causing their child's health struggles, and then letting them know that as a kid, kids are more resilient, they are more adaptable, and they are more capable of healing than anyone else. Adults, for sure. But this jumpstarts that healing process by restoring a parent's hope. And then it gets them excited. That's important. And that's a real part of the healing journey for families and kids. 2, answers. We're not only just taking our time to listen to mom and dads, to go through their child's case history, to go through their concerns and their health goals, but we're also taking time to explain and educate and inform them about the inner workings, the science of what's going on. the what, the how, the why, how it works. And my goal is to boil it down into a relatively simple way. Sometimes we do bump into some technical terms, but I can explain them the best as possible. And the other big thing is oftentimes parents will bring in reports from other doctors and say, hey, I got this. They didn't explain it to me. Could you help me? And I'm always happy to do that. I have gotten through countless MRI reports and X-ray reports, and the doctor said I had a scoliosis, and I look at the actual films in the report, and diagnosis is that doctor was trying to scare them. I mean, it is insane. And again, I'll just chalk that up to the things that drive me crazy. But if there are things like this and there's outside questions, then by all means, it's another thing that I can help to put into a little bit clearer picture and give some better answers to. And then the last thing is help, is throwing some things into action. Care for us it's a partnership. Again, it's not just me talking to somebody, but partnering with the family and the parents and building each kid their very own unique, personalized plan of care, and make sure that the real neurological healing and restoration is going to happen at each step of the way. And it's not, hey, you're a kid, so I see I don't know, because I don't take care of kids once a week and hope you get better, but mom, dad, I'm going to see you 3 times a week for 12 weeks, twice a week for 18 weeks, because that's what your insurance covers. That's not our practice. It's just not. As I said before, I really enjoy helping kids kick the sick, calm their sensory storms, reduce their anxiety, build confidence. There is a lot that goes into this. And part of it is building a good relationship with them, building trust. It's no mystery and no secret. The way you see me right now is the way that I spend most of my days. I don't wear scrubs. I don't have a lab coat. I don't wear a stethoscope. I'm not stuffy. We have a good time. We have a fun and inviting atmosphere. Kids call me by my first name, Tygue. Don't have to call me doctor. It never ceases to amaze me when the D word comes into play, how much kids will clam up and get scared. So in our practice, just Tygue. I'm here to help. I have a ton of fun helping postpartum moms get confident with their movement and feeling like they can get into exercise again, helping dads that are just, they need a spark. They need something. They go for a run and this hurts and that hurts. They need a little bit of building some functional movement back up so they can feel confident in going to the gym or going out for a run. And really, and perhaps my most favorite part is helping kids, like I said, perfect storm kids, chronically sick kids, just struggling to regain their health and their quality of life. And finally, the thing that I love most of all is my prenatal appointments, my family wellness appointments, and our new baby checkup. Now, the cool thing, and I really love it because it's preventative. Preventing things like the perfect storm, preventing all those struggles, and it works on helping to keep them from happening in the first place. That family wellness side of the practice, it's not the one that gets the most PR, and it's not the one that gets the most fanfare, but it makes up a huge chunk of the people that I see that have gotten through taking care of a problem from the inside out, not the outside in, and they've continued into wellness care, because they know that this has made a positive impact in their life and they want to keep that positive impact going in their life. It's really where the miracles happen in the practice in their own special way. And it may not be so-and-so said their first word after not talking for a year and we've just started getting into calming that storm down and they're more calm and less anxious and they've been getting adjusted for a little bit and their scans look great and now we're starting to see progression. But it may be just a quieter, more full family potential type of way. And I tell you what, to me, those are 2 huge wins. Now, I have gone on and on and on for a while now, but that's what gets me going. These are the things that drive me. Yeah, we talked about a lot of things that drive me crazy, but there's a lot of stuff that I really, really love about this type of practice. And above all, it's the amazing opportunity that I have to make positive impacts on the lives of these kids that I'm seeing every single day. When we're outside of the office, it's usually at this point in my life catering to whatever Benny needs. We go on a ton of walks. He loves the water. We go to our community pool. We splash around, get him nice and tired for a good nap. Just a little trick there, moms and dads. We take him to the beach. We take him places. We take him out in public. He is very well socialized, and this is really important to us. Other things, oftentimes when you come to the office, you'll see this old Hot Wheels truck that kids call it in the parking lot. I don't drive a new fancy car. I drive a 1980 Jeep Cherokee Chief, and I restored it from pretty much the ground up. Frame off restoration, did the work entirely by myself with the help of a few friends here and there that knew more about some things than I do, but there was a lot of challenges that came with that. I had to figure out how to build a fuel system. I had to figure out how to wire an entire vehicle with things like blinkers and windshield washers and power windows, and it's pretty cool. It's a 1980, and I built out a key fob system for it, and I had to figure all this stuff out and build it and learn it, and that's really one of the passions that I have. I love fixing things. If you ask Haley, a lot of times it used to be I would take things apart and not really be able to put them back together, but I've gotten a lot better on that, promise. I drive an old car because it's fun, and I love that stuff. I love taking old things and making them new again. I love taking things that don't work well and helping them to work better. Between our time living in the Caribbean and moving to Florida, we briefly moved back to Michigan for a couple of years. We bought a farmhouse that was built in the 1860s because it was quaint. It was beautiful. It was cool. It had a big fenced-in yard for our dog. And after living on an island for 5 years and going through a hurricane and not having power for 6 months and losing my house and having all my underwear in the ocean, I can laugh about that now. Wasn't very funny at the time. But I just needed a little bit of a change. I needed some space. And we restored and rebuilt and refurnished every darn square inch of that house. It was not easy. Sometimes it was fun, but it wasn't always fun, and it was always challenging. Was it stressful? Oh yeah, it was definitely stressful. But at the end, we got through, and it was awesome. And that's kind of how life is. There's a lot of things that are really tough as you're going through them. But when you get to the end, you look back, you can really be proud of the work that you do. And that's really another thing that drives me. Is it easy to have moved across the country to where we are now here in South Florida, to a place where there are not many other people that do what I do? No. Is it easy to start a practice and have a baby at the same time? No, not at all. Oh, no, it's not. But, to us, when we look back on this, the impact that we're having and all of this is it's going to be well worth it. And honestly, it already is. I am so fortunate to be able to do what I do on a daily basis and be surrounded with positivity and seeing these kids change and seeing their lives change for the better and seeing parents just uplifted, and it's amazing. I don't have any other way to describe it. I hope this has been some time to get to know me better and to kind of get at the inner workings of why I do what I do and why all of this stuff seems so interesting to me when I look at things from a technical perspective, or when I'm trying to help and change things and make them better from the inside out, because that's what I love. That's me. If you got more questions for me, if you want to learn anything else, favorite color is blue, I guess. I don't have any pets right now. I had a great, amazing, awesome dog for 13 years, and we lost her a couple days before Benny was born. That was a weird kind of thing with my brain. She was actually cremated on the same day he was born. But yeah, that's me. I don't really know how to end this one. I guess I'll end it like I always do. If there's anything I can do to help, please reach out. Shoot me a message. I'm usually the one that answers the phone at the practice. Our office phone's a cell phone, and if you text me over the weekend, you have questions, I'm usually the one that answers. So can't wait to meet you. I'll see you soon. Take care.